Welcome to Human Design Center. I'm glad that we share a common interest in human design, the science of differentiation, the art of living your life according to your unique design and genetic matrix that sustains it. You have a unique cosmic imprint, and you may start learning about your uniqueness by listening the gates of your chart. Today, you are going to dive into a new gate that you may have in your chart, Hexagram 23, splitting apart, assimilation, amorality, the awareness and understanding which lead to the acceptance of diversity. Hexagram 23 is part of second trimester of DUBHE, where we accomplish our purpose through physical form, civilization. In this second trimester, all the concepts and thoughts that were built in the first trimester are materialized in physical form in order to help our body, the form, to go through the journey of life. Gate 23 corresponds to goddess MAIA, the feminine archetype of the mother of all gods, being the one that gave birth to Hermes, the messenger of the Olympic gods. Zodiac sign, Taurus. Gate 23 flows within the individual circuits group, which is about present, hearing, acoustic, melancholy, empowering myself, and empowering others. Keyword, empowerment of myself and of other people. Center, throat center, which is about communication, manifestation, metamorphosis, transformation through human interaction. The harmonic gate is number 43, breakthrough, gate of insights, being part of the projected channel 23 with 43, channel of structuring, from genius to freak. A design of an individual being, a design of individuality. The opposite gate is number 43, the breakthrough, gate of insights. The opposite is the same as the harmonic gate. We have 3 harmonic oppositions in our body graph, meaning opposite gates form a channel, 43 and 23, 20 and 34, and 37 with 40th gate. Aminoacid, leucine. Relevant organ, thyroid, throat. Tarot card associated, hanged man, major arcana number 12. Gate 23, in second trimester, in MAIA, forms the channel with gate 43 located in the 4th trimester of Sirius mutation spirit, connecting to Hades archetype. This way, amino acid leucine associated with gate 23 communicates with amino acid asparagine of gate 43. It is relevant for the value and functioning of this gate to observe that amino acid leucine is the same as for the gate 20 under the castle of the same goddess MAIA. It is useful to have in mind that these 2 gates share the same amino acid, both placed within the same energy of MAIA. But it becomes interesting to observe that leucine is the amino acid of the 4 gates of Mitra, 42, 3, 27, 24, in the first trimester. Now, in this second trimester of gate 23, all the concepts and thoughts that were built in the first trimester are materialized in physical form in order to help our body, the form, to go through the journey of life. Between the last god of first trimester, Mitra, and the first deity of second trimester, MAIA, we observe that leucine is shared. So from idea to form, from thinking to results, leucine plays an important role. Leucine may help in the process of materializing our ideas, getting results from the correct thinking as a base of our actions. What is the correct thinking? The correct reasoning and idea that lead you to action, to concrete results. The correct idea or thinking process may be in a deep relation to leucine, impacting the form, the result. Leucine is an essential branch chain amino acid, BCAA, meaning that the body cannot produce it on its own and must obtain it from food or supplements. It plays a crucial role in muscle growth, protein synthesis, and overall metabolic health. Let's refer to these roles one by one. 1. Muscle growth and repair. Leucine is the most potent BCAA in stimulating muscle protein synthesis. It activates a specific mechanism in the body that promotes muscle growth and repair. Athletes and bodybuilders often consume high leucine foods or supplements to support muscle recovery and strength gains. 2. Energy production and metabolism. Leucine is used as an energy source during exercise and fasting, helping to maintain muscle mass. It can be converted into ketones, making it beneficial for people following a ketogenic diet. It helps regulate blood sugar levels by improving insulin sensitivity and reducing glucose spikes. 3. Wound healing and tissue repair. Leucine accelerates the healing process by promoting collagen formation and cell regeneration. It's especially beneficial post-surgery or after injuries, where tissue repair is essential. 4. Brain and nervous system function. Leucine supports the production of neurotransmitters, which are essential for cognitive function and mental clarity. It may help reduce mental fatigue and improve focus and alertness. 5. Fat loss and metabolic health. Leucine helps preserve lean muscle mass while promoting fat loss. It may reduce cravings and appetite, making it useful for weight management. In order to take leucine from food, we have animal sources: chicken, beef, eggs, fish, dairy, cheese, milk, yogurt, and plant sources: lentils, chickpeas, quinoa, soybeans, nuts, and seeds. Most people can get enough leucine through a balanced diet. Athletes or those recovering from injuries may need higher amounts. Leucine supplements can be helpful for intense training, muscle recovery, or fasting periods. Any supplements shall be taken by doctor's prescription. This material is just a research for the understanding of human design gates. It does not represent an advice. So, since we've located the gate on the mandala and on the body graph, and we have a general summary of the essential characteristics of Gate 23, you also know the benefits of the amino acid associated with the behavior of this placement. You have the elements to keynote the message of this gate. If you have this gate active in your chart, take your time, compose the key phrase of this gate, and feel how it resonates. Leave a comment, share your insights and understandings. Now let's have a look to the energy of Gate 23, a gate of splitting apart, assimilation, Hexagram 23, in the I Ching, known as splitting apart, speaks to the natural cycle of decay, dissolution, and transformation. The structure of the hexagram, 5 yin lines above a single yang line at the base, symbolizes a weakening foundation, as if something is being stripped away layer by layer. This hexagram represents a time when things seem to be falling apart. It could be a personal situation, a belief system, or a structure that is no longer sustainable. An essential theme is the acceptance of natural cycles. Just as autumn leads to winter, dissolution is part of life's flow. This phase allows space for something new to emerge. Letting go. Resistance to change can lead to suffering. Embracing the process of shedding outdated patterns is necessary for growth. Assimilation and amorality is about a higher perspective. The assimilation and amorality aspects relate to a broader spiritual and philosophical understanding. 1. First theme is amorality as transcendence of judgment. This doesn't mean a lack of ethics, but rather seeing beyond dualistic moral judgments of good and bad. True awareness understands that all things serve a purpose in the grand design. Decay is not bad. It is necessary for renewal. A relevant example is the tree losing its leaves in autumn, which is not a moral failure. It's part of the cycle. 2. Second theme, awareness and understanding, leading to acceptance of diversity. When we deeply understand the nature of life's transformations, we stop clinging to fixed ideas. Different perspectives, cultures, and values become easier to accept because we see them as expressions of the whole rather than isolated fragments. A relevant example: a person who has experienced different life phases, youth, adulthood, aging, is less likely to judge others harshly because they see life from multiple perspectives. How to work with Hexagram 23 in your life so as to embrace the themes and learn the lessons for or growth. Do not resist necessary endings, whether it's a relationship, job, or identity. Forcing something to remain when it is naturally dissolving only causes suffering. Go inward. This is a time for self-reflection, rest, and preparation rather than external action. Trust in the process. What is falling apart now is making space for what is to come. Practice non-attachment. By letting go of rigid perspectives, you become more open to diverse experiences and viewpoints. In summary, Hexagram 23 teaches that dissolution is a natural part of transformation. By understanding and accepting this type of change, we move beyond rigid moral judgments and embrace the full diversity of life's expressions. Gate 23, in human design, splitting apart, assimilation, amorality, is located in the throat center and is part of the individual knowing circuit in human design. This gate is deeply tied to expressing unique insights and breaking apart conventional thinking. It represents the power of communication, specifically the ability to translate deeply personal knowing into words that can be understood by others. Splitting apart is about breaking down old structures. Gate 23 has the energy to disrupt existing ways of thinking by introducing radical individual insights. This can lead to a sense of splitting apart from old perspectives, beliefs, or social norms. It challenges established structures, often in a way that seems shocking or disruptive. Assimilation is translated through expressing inner knowing. The core purpose of this gate is to make abstract, personal insights understandable to others. However, timing is key. If the insight is not well expressed, or if the audience is not ready, it may be dismissed or misunderstood. Gate 23 works best when it patiently waits for the right moment to communicate its knowing. Amorality, as a theme of this gate, is seeing beyond good and bad. This doesn't mean a lack of ethics, but rather a non-dualistic perspective that accepts things as they are. It recognizes that truth is neutral, it simply exists beyond moral judgment. People with Gate 23 energy often see through illusions and refuse to conform to traditional moral labels. Awareness, that is specific to this gate, leads to acceptance of diversity. Because this gate breaks apart old beliefs, it opens space for new ways of thinking. Those with Gate 23 often have an innate ability to accept differences in perspectives, lifestyles, and opinions. It encourages individuality and allows for a more diverse and fluid understanding of reality. Gate 23 communicates its own value in relationships and communication. So, you may have observed, if you have Gate 23, that you might struggle with being misunderstood because your insights are ahead of their time. Others may reject your ideas at first, but if you wait for the right moment, your words can be transformative. The best approach is to express yourself simply, because complex explanations can confuse people. Gate 23 has a harmonious relation with Gate 43, making the channel of structuring from genius to freak. When connected to Gate 43 in Ajna Center, it forms the channel of structuring, a strong individual knowing. This channel gives breakthrough insights, but if expressed poorly, people may think you're a freak instead of a genius. Timing and clarity is essential for this channel. This is a design of individuality. The individual is always on the outside until they find a way to be able to explain themselves. Unless the individual can explain themselves, they are always going to be placed on the outside. The 23rd gate does not say, I believe, like the abstract voice. It does not say, I think, like the logical voice. It says, I know, or I don't know. When you say, I know, you'd better be able to explain yourself. If you can't, you will be rejected. For you to remember, briefly, Gate 23 represents the power of individual knowing, breaking apart old ideas, and expressing new insights. It teaches us to see beyond moral judgments, embrace diversity, and wait for the right moment to communicate deep truths. Now, since Gate 23 is an individual gate, we have to understand how it functions within the individual circuitry. Ra Uru Hu gives us an explanation. I quote, "There is a difference between the collective process in the throat, with its primary gates of communication, and the individual process. The collective process in the throat is the capacity to be able to translate the internal image or concept from the mind into language, into words. To get people in the abstract process to be able to see and make sense out of what you are telling them, or in the logical process to get people to recognize and understand the facts. When we come to the individual process, it operates differently because the individual mind is acoustic. Whenever you see individuality in a chart, what you are looking at is an aspect that operates at an acoustic level. So, rather than trying to translate an image and turn it into language so that you can get people to see what you are talking about, the 23rd gate acts as a legitimate translator. That is, you take the original inner sound, the inner voice, and find a way to translate that into a language that allows the individual to explain themselves. Above the lines, it says amorality. It is one of the things to recognize about the nature of the individual process that, contrary to the collective and the tribal processes, which are both moralistic, the individual process is not. Amorality is the key to the individual process. It is not about what is right or wrong. It is about what one knows or does not know, the awareness and understanding that leads to the acceptance of diversity. The difficulty with all individuality is that it seeks to be accepted. It will always attract attention. Because the individual is different and brings the potential for a mutative force, the individual can be easily rejected. When the individual becomes moralistic, they are the first to be rejected. The reality is that individuals are simply different. It is not about whether it is good or bad. I hope I've piqued your curiosity, because we go on now to climb the 6 lines ladder of Gate 23. It's a process that will bring clarity to you in relation to nuances of the content and expression of the 23rd gate. At the end, we will touch upon the crosses of incarnation, where Gate 23 plays its role for our conscious sun and become part of the purpose. Let's see the 6 stages of development of this energy and possible dualism in its manifestation. Gate 23, line 1, proselytization. The attempt to undermine one set of values for another. Gate 23 is about assimilation and communication, translating deep individual knowing into words that others can understand. When doing this in line 1 of Gate 23, proselytization, the communication, the translation into words highlights the tension between sharing a unique perspective and imposing it on others. Line 1 is always about the foundation, seeking knowledge and security before sharing it with the world. In this case, proselytization refers to the urge to spread and defend a specific understanding, even if it challenges the status quo. However, the impact depends on planetary influences. The core meaning of this gate is enclosed in the overview line, from which we can extract at least 3 essential themes. 1. Challenging existing beliefs. This line carries the energy of questioning and dismantling established systems of thought. It can manifest as a desire to replace outdated beliefs with new, more evolved ones. The challenge is that not everyone is ready to have their values questioned. 2. The risk of being rejected. When someone with Gate 23.1 presents a radically new perspective, people may resist or feel threatened. This line can alienate others if the message feels too forceful. The key is to share insights in a way that allows others to accept change naturally rather than feeling attacked. 3. The power of persuasion. This energy can be powerfully influential when used wisely. If Gate 23.1 speaks at the right time and in the right way, with the most appropriate words, it can help shift collective awareness toward a higher truth. However, if the message is delivered poorly, it may be seen as dogmatic or disruptive. Depending on other placement in your chart, this energy may express as a gift, to the highest potential or to the lowest expression. As we know, the first line of any hexagram describes the foundation. This is the introspective quality. This is the pure nature of a hexagram. This first line of the 23rd hexagram is called proselytization, the attempt to undermine one set of values for another. This word describes a process in which you try to convince other people of what you know. How will you do that? A balanced and clear communication, in order to convince, is about sharing insights in a way that encourages open-minded discussion and gradual change. This gate could be a gift when, while convincing others of what you know, you help people see beyond old limitations and embrace new possibilities without pressure. Pushing ideas too aggressively, convincing at any cost, trying to convert others without respect for their perspective, that may become a low expression of Gate 23. As you see, your purpose, the way you choose your words, the attitude towards people, the right timing to speak, a clear and simple language, these are all key elements for communicating what you know or what you don't know out of Gate 23, Line 1. Undermining one set of values for another can be a gift or a shadow. The planet that activates this gate is very relevant for this dual expression. Jupiter exalted, the sage who, in the extreme, can defend evil as a part of the greater good. The powerful expression of an insight which will undermine established values. Jupiter is about expansion, wisdom, and belief systems. When exalted, it amplifies the ability to express deep insights powerfully. Here, the sage represents someone with deep wisdom who can see beyond conventional moral boundaries. The phrase, defend evil as a part of the greater good, suggests a perspective that challenges societal norms by seeing value even in what is traditionally considered negative. This can manifest as controversial but transformative communication, where someone articulates a perspective that might initially be unsettling but ultimately leads to a higher understanding. There is an impact of Jupiter exalted, coming out of the power to undermine established values. With such powerful insight, this gate can shake up rigid belief systems. This energy is disruptive yet enlightening, forcing people to reconsider their assumptions. It can be seen in philosophers, revolutionaries, or spiritual teachers who break old paradigms and introduce a new way of thinking. If you have Gate 23.1 with Jupiter exalted, you might have a strong voice that challenges societal norms. You might be able to justify perspectives that others find extreme, but in doing so, reveal deeper truths. Your words could be misunderstood or seen as provocative, but they hold the potential to redefine collective values. Mars in detriment. The missionary whose very light will bring darkness. The powerful expression of an insight which will produce negative effects. Mars represents action, force, and raw energy. When in detriment, its influence can become reckless, impatient, or overly aggressive in expression. The phrase, the missionary whose very light will bring darkness, suggests that the person's intended enlightenment may instead cause chaos, conflict, or backlash. Their insights may be brilliant, but poorly received due to their intensity, forceful delivery, or lack of consideration for others' readiness to receive the truth. Or, you have something brilliant to say, but you deal with people that do not want to accept your insights, either because of powerful delivery of the message, you are too direct, or they are not prepared, or because they are never prepared to get through this darkness before the subsequent enlightenment. Maybe it's not their time to grasp what you say. Anyway, out of darkness comes the light. This can be expressed in real life in different ways. This person may feel an urgent need to express their insights, but their impatience or lack of tact can lead to misunderstanding or resistance. They may struggle with frustration when others don't immediately grasp their vision. Their words can be disruptive or even destructive, especially if they challenge established beliefs too aggressively. Rather than inspiring change, their communication may push people away or trigger defensive reactions. Disregard that Mars is in detriment. There are some strategies to be used for a healthy expression of this placement. I do believe that, either detriment or exaltation, every planetary imprint is perfect. It's up to us how we work with that placement in our lives. So, let's think of some strategies. Since we deal with Mars, master the art of timing. Not all insights should be shared immediately. Wait for the right moment. Refine your delivery. Avoid being too blunt, harsh, or impatient in speech. Read the room. Recognize when people are ready to receive deep insights. Use Mars' just drive wisely. Channel that powerful expression into something constructive instead of confrontational. Use your strategy and authority to choose the right people that will receive your knowing, to choose the right timing. Now, about both exaltation and detriment. These are the two sides of the individual process. It is about bringing mutation. The 23rd hexagram is bringing the possibility of mutation as a description of a mental concept. Ra Uruhu gives his own example. I quote, "I am a pure individual. I have an individual mind. I bring the knowing that I have and do the very best I can to explain it. The reality it's that either leads to a mutative way in which we think, or I will be rejected as a freak. These are the two sides of the same coin. The powerful expression of an insight which will undermine established values. The human design system undermines a great deal of dogma. On the other side, the powerful expression of an insight which we produce negative effects. Something can be mutative in a positive or in a negative way. This very mutative force can seem very offensive. If you are a Black native in the heart of Africa and you have a white missionary coming to you and telling you, "I know that Jesus will save you," this can be a real pain in the neck, even if the white person is really convinced that she does a very good job of explaining that. One person's knowing can be very offensive to the collective or to the tribe. So, both sides of these realities always exist in the 23, which means that gate 23, when it opens its mouth and says, "I know," is always open to rejection. This is the other side of the coin. End of quote. Gate 23, line 2, self-defense. The need to abandon tolerance when survival is threatened. We know that gate 23 is about expression, transformation, and breaking apart old ways of thinking. Line 2 of this gate, called self-defense, introduces a survival instinct into this process. Keynoting, transformation, and breaking apart old ways of thinking for the purpose of or through self-defense, based on survival instinct, because there is a need to abandon tolerance, since survival is threatened. It suggests that while tolerance and acceptance are important, there are moments when one must protect themselves and their truth at all costs. We extract some themes out this line. 1. The natural state of tolerance. This line prefers to be open and accepting different perspectives. However, tolerance has its limits, especially when one's integrity, beliefs, or survival are at risk. It highlights the tension between being inclusive versus setting firm boundaries. 2. Abandoning tolerance for survival. This energy recognizes that sometimes standing firm is necessary, even if it means rejecting opposing viewpoints. If someone feels attacked, manipulated, or undermined, they may shift from acceptance to a strong defensive attitude. It suggests a practical wisdom, knowing when to engage and when to protect oneself. 3. Speaking your truth without fear. This line carries a strong instinct to defend one's knowing, even when it disrupts harmony. People with this energy may be misunderstood because their truth challenges the status quo. The main idea is not to attack, but to stand firmly in one's truth when necessary. If you are over-defensive, this leads to reacting aggressively to differing perspectives, closing off from new ideas. A balanced approach is more appropriate. Discernment will help you know when to engage in dialogue and when to walk away. Remember, there is a gift enclosed in this line: the potential of defending one's truth calmly and effectively without unnecessary conflict. Abandoning tolerance is not about attacking. You have to work properly with Gate 23.2 energy by staying open when possible, because tolerance is valuable, but not at the cost of your integrity. Recognize real versus perceived threats, since sometimes what feels like an attack is just a difference of opinion. Defend wisely and use your voice to protect yourself, but avoid unnecessary battles. This line teaches that while acceptance of diversity is important, there are times when standing firm is necessary for survival and self-respect. When you are dealing with the first line, because you are dealing with a voice that says, "I know," and explains itself, the first line recognizes that there is knowing within it, but it is looking into the nature of the knowing. When you get to the second line, you are always getting to a line of projection. We know that the second line is going to project out the quality of the gate. Ra-Uru-Hu said that, I quote, "The second line is always the child in the classroom that goes, 'I know,' and that does not mean they do." The whole thing about the nature of the individual is that every aspect of individuality that you find in a chart, that aspect has a built-in resistance to interference. This is one of the keys to individual integrity. The key is, fall on your own face and do not take anybody else's advice. The reality is that when you have a child with the 23.2 that is 4 years old and is yelling at their parents, "I know," it can get them into a lot of trouble because they may not really know. They do not have the ability to look inward the way the first line does. They project this knowing out. This line is called self-defense. This is the key to the defense of the individual, and it will get its full quality when it resonates to the fifth line, where the individual process can be universalized. It says, the need to abandon tolerance when survival is threatened. Survival is a very powerful word, and it is talking about the nature of what it is to be an individual. If you are an individual and you know something, and you swallow that in the face of the resistance from others, your survival as an individual comes to an end. That is, your capacity to maintain your individual nature deteriorates, and so many people who have the 23rd gate never express their "I know" because they were slapped down when they were children. They were constantly being put in their place and being told, "You don't know." Jupiter exalted in the second line of Gate 23, the principle of preservation at its most acute. The abandonment of tolerance when individual expression is threatened. Jupiter represents expansion, wisdom, and belief systems. When exalted, it brings great strength, moral conviction, and protection to what it values. The phrase, "the principle of preservation at its most acute," suggests a strong commitment to protecting one's individual insights and authenticity, especially when they are under threat. This placement amplifies the desire to safeguard one's truth, ensuring that personal expression is not compromised by external forces. Second theme of this placement, the abandonment of tolerance when individual expression is threatened. What comes out of this? And tolerance is conditional here. As long as individual expression is respected, there may be harmony. However, if external forces try to suppress or control the individual's unique insights, there is an intense reaction. One may completely reject compromise and stand their ground fiercely. This can manifest as unwavering conviction in one's ideas and the refusal to conform to societal pressures if they contradict personal truth. This placement has a very strong behavior in real life, such as defender of truth. A person with this placement may feel a deep moral responsibility to protect their ideas, even at the cost of tolerance. Uncompromising integrity. If their individual expression is challenged, they may become unyielding and unwilling to negotiate. Natural influence. Unlike line 1, which seeks a foundation, line 2 naturally attracts attention, and others may recognize them as a voice of wisdom. Potential isolation when or if they refuse to bend or adapt. They may struggle with rejection or alienation from the collective. To work with this placement and integrate the lessons, you might ponder on some useful strategies. Know when to fight and when to flow. Not all challenges require a battle. Sometimes persuasion works better than resistance. Wait for recognition, because sharing insights at the right moment ensures they land effectively. Express your conviction with sufficient openness, since while defending one's truth is important, being too rigid can create unnecessary conflict. About Jupiter exalted, the principle of preservation at its most acute, Ra Uru Hu tells that these people say, I quote, I know, I know, I know, and they keep screaming it at the moon in detriment. Where Jupiter will strike out to preserve its integrity, the moon is often satisfied with just protecting itself by fending off hostility. This is the beginning of the individual deteriorating. The moment the individual is concerned about harmony is the moment that deterioration comes into their individuality. This is very difficult for people who have a lot of individual definition in their design, because it is very hard for them, genetically speaking, to be able to accept the input from others. Yet, built into this, like all the dualities and the polarities in design, is an inherent weakness within the individual. The fear of being rejected, the fear that their contribution to the totality cannot be made. In the White Book, it says, the abandonment of tolerance when individual expression is threatened. These are people that insist on getting out their I know, on projecting that knowing out. End of quote. Let's think about moon in detriment and how to break down the meaning of this sentence. Where Jupiter will strike out to preserve its integrity, the moon is often satisfied with just protecting itself by fending off hostility. The moon represents emotions, security, and subconscious needs. In detriment, it can be passive, defensive, or reactive rather than proactive. Unlike Jupiter, which will boldly fight to defend individual expression, the moon's strategy is more about self-protection. It doesn't go on the offensive, but instead fends off threats and avoids direct confrontation. This suggests a less aggressive, more defensive approach to maintaining personal integrity, one that deflects rather than directly challenges opposition. The second theme, the defense of individual expression in the face of hostility. People with this placement don't seek conflict, but will defend themselves if necessary. Instead of trying to convince others or fight against suppression, they may use avoidance, retreat, or subtle deflection to protect their ideas. They might feel uncomfortable with direct confrontation and instead use passive resistance to maintain their authenticity. This can make them appear withdrawn or even misunderstood, as they are more focused on survival than expression when faced with hostility. People with this placement, in real life, they can project a defensive expression. Instead of boldly asserting their truth, they may only speak when forced to defend themselves. Avoiding conflict is about avoiding arguments and simply let opposition fade rather than fighting for recognition. Their deep sensitivity becomes obvious when hostility or rejection can feel deeply personal, leading to withdrawal or reluctance to share insights. There is a subtle resistance since, rather than open rebellion, they may quietly hold on to their truth without engaging in debate. Work with this placement, accept it, integrate it, express the highest octave of it with some small strategies for big rewards. Find safe spaces for expression. Not everyone will understand, so choosing the right audience matters. Develop confidence in your voice. Avoiding conflict is valid, but sometimes assertion is necessary. Recognize that hostility isn't always personal. Others' resistance often reflects their own fears, not a rejection of your truth. Talking about moon and detriment, Ra Uruhu transmitted some valuable words. I quote, "On the other hand, with moon and detriment, we have the defense of individual expression in the face of hostility. This is the moment where, for example, in the process of a child who has a knowing inside of them, because they have been told in the past that they don't know, rather than saying what they do know, they are more concerned in keeping everybody happy around them. I don't want to be treated like a freak, so I'd better not tell them what I know." You notice, by the way, that when I make these references and how this is lived out, I am very often referring to children. It is very important to understand that by the time you get to be an adult, you are already so deeply conditioned so far away from your nature. The reality is that this kind of knowledge ultimately is for children so that their process can be healthy, and so the people that raise these children can have a deep recognition of the nature of what is there. Collective children do not have the same kind of difficulties in dealing with criticism because they are born to be critical themselves and they are born to share the nature of criticism. This is part of the process of being collective through experience and experimentation. The tribal child has a contact with those around him that is very deep and supportive, even when it is difficult, because there is a much deeper bond in the relationship. But when you are dealing with an individual child or aspects of individuality in a child, because they are different and they do not function in those ways, they are deeply sensitive to criticism. The criticism at the child's level in the individual child is something that will inhibit their capacity and their security to be able to express their individuality. Gate 23, Line 3, Individuality. Independent expression that is not by its nature detrimental to others. Gate 23, located in the throat center, is all about translating deep personal knowing into clear expression. Line 3, called individuality, highlights the ability to express unique insights in a way that does not harm or disrupt others. Keynoting Gate 23, Line 3 in the overview line, it sounds like this. I translate deep personal knowing into clear expression with unique insights in a way that does not harm or disrupt others, since independent expression is not by itself detrimental to others. Now, let's break down the themes. 1. Independent expression is a theme that outlines the power of authentic self-expression. This line embraces independent thinking and unique perspectives. Unlike earlier lines that struggle with timing or resistance, Line 3 finds a way to speak its truth without imposing it on others. This is a mature form of individualism, one that allows differences to coexist. 2. That is not by its nature detrimental to others means that expression is done without harm. Individuality does not have to be offensive or destructive. It can be inspiring and empowering instead. This line understands that being true to oneself does not require diminishing others. It's about self-sovereignty, not rebellion. 3. Freedom to be different is conclusion of this overview concept line. Those with this energy often feel a deep need to express themselves authentically. They may not fit into social norms, but they don't need to tear down others to assert their uniqueness. When expressed correctly, their insights can be accepted and appreciated. Indeed, as a high expression of this third line, you have the ability to inspire others through unique but non-threatening self-expression in line with your true individuality. When you have a balanced approach of what you know and how to express your unique knowing, you honor personal truth while respecting others. The challenge is, go to the lower expression of this line and to express individualism in a way that is disruptive or alienating. It is useful to know how to work with Gate 23.3 energy for a balanced expression of it. Express yourself freely, but with awareness, because your words can be powerful and transformative. Trust that being yourself is enough, and you don't have to fight for recognition. Balance independence with connecting. Since individuality doesn't mean isolation, that's a bias. For sure, you can be different while still belonging. Gate 23.3 is the art of being uniquely yourself without harming or rejecting others in the process. It allows for peaceful self-expression, unique insights, inspiring others by simply being authentic. Ra said that, when you come to this third line, it is called individuality. It is the nature of the individual process. It is, in this sense, the archetype of the individual process, that the individual knower cannot really be of value, cannot really bring wisdom, unless that knower makes a lot of mistakes. All third lines are about adaptation. Knowing can be a very fixed process, and the reality is that the knower who goes through a mistake process and comes to grips with that process of trial and error and adaptation, that the nature of their individuality, the power of their ability to explain themselves, grows. For individuals, it is very important to develop language skills. It is very important for them to develop the capability of being able to explain themselves, because if you can't explain yourself as an individual, it is so easy for others to reject you. Independent expression that is by its nature not detrimental to others. Sun exalted, vitality and personal power that can engender jealousy but not threat. In the White Book, individual expression that attracts attention but not threat. Those individuals that go through the process of making mistakes learn how to couch their language in such a way that they are not threatened in their expression of I know. The sun represents core identity, purpose, and life force energy. When exalted in this line, it brings strong self-expression, personal confidence, and a magnetic presence. This placement means the individual naturally attracts attention due to their uniqueness, but not in a way that provokes hostility or direct opposition. While others may feel jealousy toward this individuality, they do not perceive it as a threat to their own identity or stability. This creates a situation where the person can stand out without facing severe resistance, a rare gift in the world of individual expression. Interpreting the theme in the White Book, individual expression that attracts attention but not threat, we see that. This line naturally draws attention, whether through the way the person communicates, their insights, or their presence. Unlike other aspects of individual circuitry, which can often be met with rejection or resistance, this line allows for a smoother acceptance of uniqueness. The individual does not have to force recognition. It happens naturally. There is a sense of authenticity and personal power that is respected rather than challenged. In your life, this exaltation appears like magnetic presence that others notice without any effort, respected individuality. Unlike other individual expressions that face rejection, their uniqueness is often appreciated rather than attacked. Their presence carries natural authority, but they do not need to dominate or fight for influence. They do not need to be aggressive for getting to leadership. Potential for envy. While others may admire them, there can still be some jealousy, though not enough to create real conflict. Sun, exalted or not, always brings us valuable lessons to integrate and useful tools for building our strategy to achieve the purpose of this placement. Lessons, tools, strategies such as own your individuality. People already notice you, so embrace your uniqueness with confidence. Don't fear visibility. Unlike other individual gates that face pushback, yours is more likely to be accepted. Stay humble and inclusive. Since this energy can create jealousy, being aware of others' feelings can help maintain harmony. Then, you have the Pluto in detriment, an individual mysteriousness that attracts active suspicion and threat. In the White Book, the Freak, individual expression that attracts suspicion and threat. Pluto is the planet of deep transformation, power struggles, and hidden forces. In detriment, its energy can be intense, misunderstood, and provoke deep reactions from others. This placement suggests that the way you express your individuality is perceived as mysterious, strange, or even threatening to those around you. Unlike the sun's exaltation in this line, which attracts attention without resistance, Pluto here generates suspicion and even hostility from others. People may feel uncomfortable, or even fearful of what they don't understand about you, and they might try to challenge, suppress, or reject your insights. In the White Book, we have the freak, individual expression that attracts suspicion and threat. The term freak in human design is often used to describe mutative energy that is ahead of its time. People with this placement often see and understand things differently, but their expression is not immediately accepted by the collective. Instead of admiration, their uniqueness can trigger fear, skepticism, or outright rejection from others. The challenge here is that society often resists transformation, and the person may feel like an outsider because of this. Pluto in detriment makes you feel like a misunderstood genius. Your ideas or way of thinking may be too ahead of their time, leading to rejection or fear from others. It's also about social alienation, when you might feel like an outsider because people don't easily accept or understand your insights. You cannot neglect the deep transformational power that you might have, since Pluto's energy pushes you to embrace transformation, even if it means facing resistance. Sometimes people may feel threatened because your presence or ideas can trigger defensive reactions, especially from those who hold traditional or fixed perspectives. The deep transformational value of Pluto requires some strategies, such as refine your timing, and if people don't understand you at first, wait for the right moment to express your insights. Find the right audience, even if it's hard when you meet some people that resist your ideas, but there are, for sure, others that will be ready to receive them and support you. Don't take rejection personally. Your individuality is valuable, even if it's not immediately recognized. Use mystery to your advantage. If people already see you as mysterious, own that energy and allow them to become curious rather than fearful. With Pluto in detriment in Gate 23, Line 3, your individuality demands deep transformation, but it can also trigger resistance and fear in others. Your challenge is to navigate being misunderstood and learn how to time your insights so that they can be received rather than rejected. Ross said about 23.3 that, I quote, "I am someone who has the 43.3 with 23.3. When Pluto was in the 43rd gate, which took place in 1990, I went through this process of having everybody deal with me as a black magician who is crazy and dangerous. It made a lot of people very uncomfortable. This is simply the nature of it." Gate 23, Line 4, Fragmentation. Diversification without a perceived potential for synthesis. Gate 23 is the gate of assimilation, focused on expressing deep individual insights in a way that others can understand. Line 4, called fragmentation, represents a challenge in this process, the inability to bring ideas together into a cohesive whole. Keynoting Gate 23, Line 4, and the overview line sounds like this. I express deep individual insights in a way that others can understand. I fragment the message. I fragment what I know because I do not bring ideas together into a cohesive whole. The themes of fragmentation and of the overview line can be synthesized in some basic ideas. 1. The struggle to create coherence. This line carries a wealth of ideas, insights, and perspectives, but they may seem scattered or disconnected. Unlike other lines of Gate 23 that find ways to structure and communicate knowing, Line 4 struggles to unify its knowledge into something clear and digestible. The result? People may not understand what is being expressed, leading to confusion or dismissal. 2. The risk of over-diversification. This energy can jump between different concepts, perspectives, and areas of knowledge without fully integrating them. While variety and exploration are valuable, there's a risk of never bringing ideas together into something meaningful. Without synthesis, knowledge remains fragmented rather than transformative. 3. Miscommunication and lack of reception. The challenge of this line is that its expressions may feel random, disconnected, or too unconventional for others to grasp. If an insight cannot be synthesized and communicated properly, it may not have the impact it deserves. This can lead to frustration, having profound insights, but struggling to make them useful or relevant. With all these traits and qualities, you may either express the lowest side of this line or the highest. The diversification can turn into a creative synthesis. You may find innovative ways to bring together diverse knowledge into a powerful, impactful truth. This is the gift of this lean, the highest expression, which can also lead you to patience and integration, learning to take time to connect ideas into a unified message before expressing them. Remember that sharing fragmented, disconnected insights that lack coherence bring confusion and chaos, and this a low expression of the potential of this gate. Lacking the potential for synthesis can happen to a certain degree. It does not mean that it has to always be to the lowest expression. This is a line to work with, to understand how deep is this lack of potential for synthesis. Slow down and organize thoughts. Take time to synthesize insights before expressing them. Be patient with communication. Your knowing is valuable, but it needs structure to be received well. Find common threads. Look for ways to connect diverse ideas into a cohesive whole. Gate 23.4 teaches the importance of clarity and synthesis. Otherwise, even the most profound insights may go unheard. Remember that we are in the upper trigram, which is about externalizing. It is the recognition that there is something across the way. There is a recognition that one has to deal with 43 in a transpersonal way. Ra-Uru said that it is about being fixed in the sense of being one-tracked, and it says here, fragmentation, diversification without a perceived potential for synthesis. These are knowing junkies. They move from one knowing to another, and there is no way for them in which those disparate, diverse knowings add up to something. Due to the fact that there is no potential for synthesis, there is simply a collection of knowing. Sun exalted. Fatalism and egoism and damn the consequences. Individual expression, which has no collective value. The sun represents core identity, purpose, and vitality. When exalted here, it intensifies the individual's self-expression to the point of complete self-absorption. This placement suggests a rigid, almost defiant attitude where the individual expresses their insights without concern for how they are received or whether they benefit others. Fatalism and egoism. This means the person may not care about the consequences of their words or actions. They express what they know regardless of how disruptive or unaccepted it may be. Individual expression which has no collective value. The insight or knowledge may be brilliant, but useless to the collective because it cannot be applied, understood, or integrated into society. This can result in isolation or being perceived as someone who just doesn't fit into the larger picture. If a person have this placement, it may be about extreme independence. The individual may insist on their own way of thinking, refusing to conform to societal expectations. Disregard for consequences. They might say things without filtering them, believing that truth is more important than diplomacy. Potential for isolation. Because their insights do not serve the collective, they may struggle to find an audience that resonates with them. Resistance to influence. This line often does not care about external validation or approval, making it hard to compromise or work within structured environments. You can work with the energy of this gate, using all your qualities and placements to reach a higher expression of this placement. Your tools may be about how to refine your communication. If you want your insights to be valued, learn how to express them in a way that makes them useful to others. To be mindful of your audience. Some people are not ready for your perspective. Choose when and where to share it. Balancing individuality with connection. While your independence is a strength, complete disregard for others can lead to alienation. Find those who understand you. Not everyone will appreciate your insights, but the right people will. With Sun exalted in Gate 23, Line 4, Your individuality shines powerfully and unapologetically, but it may also disconnect you from the collective. Your challenge is to find ways to bridge the gap between personal knowing and practical application, so your insights can be understood and valued rather than dismissed. As Ra Uru Hu said about this sun exalted in line 4 of Gate 23, when these people get into their knowing trip, it is all they can externalize, even if it has nothing to do with anything else. These people simply want to get that knowing out and externalize it. They have a one-track mind. That is the resonance, by the way, to the 43.4, the one-track mind. The other side of this is the earth in detriment, atheism, and paranoia, individual expression which engenders isolation and fear. Let's remember that the fourth line operates within the opportunist archetype, seeking influence and stability, but also prone to rigid, fixed perspectives that can either connect or alienate. When in balance, this line can share new insights in a way that others accept. When out of balance, it can lead to fragmentation, rejection, and fear. Line 4 is fragmentation. And here comes the earth in detriment, with themes of atheism and paranoia, and an individual expression which engenders isolation and fear. The earth represents grounding, stability, and physical reality. When in detriment, it brings instability, insecurity, and disconnect from collective values. Atheism. This does not necessarily mean literal atheism, but rather a rejection of collective beliefs, traditions, or systems that provide meaning or structure. The individual may question everything, leading to an isolated or nihilistic perspective. Paranoia. Since their insights are not accepted by the collective, they may feel misunderstood, judged, or even persecuted for their way of thinking. This can create distrust of society, institutions, or even people around them. Their one-tracked process can easily lead to this kind of paranoia when Earth is here. Engenders isolation and fear. Their way of speaking and expressing insights can be so radical, unsettling, or disturbing that others feel uncomfortable or even fearful of them. They may be seen as an outsider, conspiracy theorist, or someone who challenges norms too aggressively. In real life, the individual may reject mainstream narratives, religions, or social structures, feeling they are all flawed or misleading. This is their specific deep skepticism. It may also be about feeling misunderstood. Since their way of seeing the world is different, they may struggle to communicate effectively, leading to isolation. They manifest a certain distrust of society. Their unique insights may lead them to question authority, institutions, or collective rules, sometimes to the point of paranoia. The challenge is that, if they express their thoughts too bluntly or radically, others may perceive them as a threat, rather than as someone with valuable insight. Remember that questioning is valuable, but complete rejection of all systems can lead to isolation. If you see that people fear or misunderstand you, work on presenting your insights in a way that invites discussion rather than rejection. Find the right audience. Not everyone will resonate with your ideas, but there are people who will. Seek those who are open to new perspectives. Since Earth represents stability, focus on practices that help you stay connected to reality rather than slipping into paranoia or excessive skepticism. With Earth in detriment in Gate 23, Line 4, your individuality and insights may clash with collective values, leading to isolation and distrust. Your challenge is to find a way to communicate your truth without alienating yourself or provoking unnecessary fear. Let's hear the words of Ra Uru Hu about this placement from Line Companion. Individuals that simply put out knowing that is of no value to the collective, individual expression that has no collective value. If the collective is not interested in what the knower has to say, the knower is going to be shunned. So the knower then shifts to the next knowing, but it still has no value to the collective because it is an individual knowing process in which they are fixed. When you come to the detriment side, to the atheism and paranoia, to these kinds of knowers, knowing is all about three things: knowing what you can know, recognizing what is not worth knowing, and being clear about what is unknowable. These people, because they are into so much knowing, they see that nothing really is of value. Because of that, and because the outside world is going to appear to be cruel to them, because they are going to be rejected by it, they can become very paranoid about releasing their knowing, very paranoid about the way that they see people coming towards them. The fear of that rejection and that paranoia becomes paranoia that there is no cosmic protection either, that there is no God to hear their prayer anymore, then there is an individual or a person out there willing to hear and take in their knowing. Again, it is so easy for human beings to be moralistic, and the moment that you get a description of a line like that, it is so easy to jump on that. Aha, this is not good. It is not about that. This, after all, is the gate of amorality. It is not about the morality of the line. For every single line and for every single aspect, you will have a value. One of those bizarre, funny knowings that the fourth line can get into in their one-track trip is that it can ultimately turn out to be of enormous value. It is just difficult for them to get that out, and they are very uncomfortable inside because there is this deep fear of rejection. Remember, the individual process to say, I know, always places you at risk, because if you can't explain it, you are a fool, or worse. So here in the fourth line, with all of this movement and diversity, there is not enough depth for a real explanation, and the depth does not permit the synthesis. And so, out of that can come a great deal of anxiety. They are never going to know what I mean. This is the real fear in the 23. The fourth line is the one that lives out pure individuality because they simply put their knowing out and do not pay any attention to the consequences. They just don't care, but they do. This is very disturbing for them. Gate 23, line 5, assimilation. The practical acceptance of the values of another path. Gate 23 is the gate of assimilation, responsible for translating individual knowing into clear expression. Line 5, called assimilation, represents the ability to recognize, accept, and integrate different perspectives or ways of thinking, not just as an intellectual exercise, but in a deeply practical way. Keynoting Gate 23, line 5. Assimilation, and the overview line, it sounds like this. I translate individual knowing into clear expression of assimilation, recognizing, accepting, and integrating different perspectives and ways of my individual thinking, practically accepting that there is value in another path to follow. Thus, I have the ability to adapt and integrate. Breaking down the key themes of Gate 23.5, assimilation, we have some basic ideas to remember. 1. The ability to adapt and integrate. This line has a pragmatic approach to learning and growth. Unlike earlier lines that may resist or struggle with change, line 5 sees value in different perspectives and incorporates them into its own understanding. Instead of rejecting an unfamiliar idea, this energy adapts and makes use of it. 2. Practical acceptance versus blind faith. This is not about blindly following another path, but rather recognizing when another approach is beneficial. People with this energy have the potential to shift perspectives without losing their core sense of self. It is practical, not ideological, meaning it accepts what works rather than getting stuck in rigid belief systems. 3. The potential for influence and leadership. Because this line can integrate different viewpoints, it can serve as a bridge between contrasting ideas, groups, or cultures. Others may look to this energy for guidance and clarity when navigating change. The challenge is to ensure that assimilation does not turn into compromise at the cost of personal truth. This gate in this fifth line, as any other gate or line, has its lowest and highest expression, has its own gift and shadow, and a certain key for balancing energies. So, you get your gift of this line when you act as a bridge between different perspectives, helping others integrate new ways of thinking. This is wisdom and leadership ability. In a balanced expression of this gate, you discern acceptance if you recognize when another path holds value without blindly following it. As for the lowest expression of this line, you might over-adapt in order to fit into others' values, losing your own truth, and in this way, you might compromise your identity. Depending on your level of awareness, Gate 23.5 allows you to work with its energy to get the most out of it. For this line, be aware of your own tools and make them available. 1. Stay open but discerning, because not every path is worth following, but some hold a deep wisdom. 2. Use adaptability as a strength. Be conscious of your ability to integrate knowledge, which allows you to guide others through change. 3. Honor your own truth. Assimilation should enhance, not replace, your individuality. Gate 23.5 teaches the power of practical wisdom, accepting and integrating what is useful from diverse perspectives while maintaining authenticity. Ra Uru Hu tells us to, I quote, "Remember that the first line always gives you the basis or the nature of the hexagram, but the fifth line always tells you the way the world looks at it. The fifth line is in resonance to the second line, which projects out, and the fifth line is projected on. What is projected onto the fifth line is that it is there to be assimilated and to assimilate. This is one of the keys to the individual, and it also shows you the pressure that comes from the outside that is placed on the individual. Yes, you are very interesting, but be like us. You might know something, but you'd better behave the way we behave, because otherwise, you will have problems with us. The individual cannot survive in the world without some capacity for assimilation." Jupiter exalted in 23.5. Expansion and contribution through assimilation. The gift of communicating individual insight to the collective. The fifth line is associated with universalization and projection. It carries a natural leadership quality, as people tend to look to fifth line individuals for solutions. However, the fifth line can also be a double-edged sword. It can be highly influential if recognized correctly, but it can also be misunderstood or rejected if the message is not clearly received. On top of these two layers, Jupiter comes and adds the layer of expansion, contribution through assimilation. Jupiter has the gift to communicate individual insights to the collective. Keynoting all of this, I know. I have insights that offer solutions. Thus, I contribute while expanding my knowing. I bring my contribution when I communicate my individual insights. But since I'm a fifth line, I'm either influential, if I am recognized correctly, or misunderstood, if the message is not received correctly by the collective. About Jupiter. Exalted. Jupiter is the planet of growth, expansion, wisdom, and prosperity. When exalted in this line, it enhances the ability to take highly individual insights and make them valuable to the collective. Let's see the first theme of Jupiter exalted, the gift of communicating individual insight to the collective. It is about gift of communication. Unlike other lines in Gate 23 that struggle with rejection, this placement naturally finds ways to express unique insights in a way that others can understand and accept. Expansion and contribution. This is not just about self-expression, but about bringing individual knowing into the world in a way that benefits others. This person can bridge the gap between individual genius and collective understanding. Strong influence. Because the fifth line is naturally projected, people look to this person for answers. If their insights are delivered well, if they are recognized, they can be seen as a leader, teacher, or innovator. This placement makes you a gifted speaker or teacher. The ability to take complex, unique, or mutative insights and explain them in a way that others understand. You might have a natural influence, and people are drawn to them for guidance, new ideas, and fresh perspectives. Jupiter helps you to be a bridge between individual and collective. It allows for greater receptivity from the collective if the message is delivered correctly. If recognized and used correctly, their words and ideas can spread widely and create significant change. Timing is everything. If the collective isn't ready for your insight, wait for the right moment to share it. With Jupiter exalted in Gate 23, Line 5, you have the rare ability to translate deep individual knowing into something valuable and impactful for the collective. You can bridge the gap between personal insight and public understanding, making you a powerful communicator and potential leader. Make sure to deliver the message correctly. Ra said that there is no way for the individual to survive and allow its gifts to penetrate into the world without this gift of being able to assimilate, without this gift of being able to find some way socially to integrate oneself into the community. Moon in detriment. Motive-driven assimilation from an inferior position, i.e., for protection or nourishment. Motive-driven assimilation for acceptance and protection from the collective. Moon in detriment. The moon is connected to emotions, needs, and cycles. In detriment, it can bring instability, insecurity, and reactive behavior rather than clarity and confidence. Motive-driven expression. Unlike the exalted version, Jupiter, which naturally communicates insights for expansion and contribution, this placement suggests that the individual modifies their expression based on personal motives, particularly for safety, acceptance, or personal gain. From an inferior position. This indicates that the individual does not feel fully empowered in their communication. Instead of speaking freely, they may adjust their insights to avoid rejection, seek approval, or ensure survival. Or this can indicate exactly as it is, an inferior position in a hierarchical structure, an inferior position in relation to something, values, people, expertise. Seeking acceptance from the collective. Instead of boldly expressing truth, the individual may water down, manipulate, or reshape their message so that it is more socially acceptable or palatable. With this placement, one may experience in real life a fear of rejection. The individual may hold back their real insights because they fear judgment or exclusion. Communication can be compromised if they alter their message, making it less impactful, just to gain approval or avoid conflict. Instead of speaking from confidence, they say what is necessary to fit in or protect themselves, orienting their speech to survival needs. It's also important to note that Moon, here, brings emotional fluctuations. The Moon's influence means that their communication may be inconsistent, shifting based on their emotional state or perceived security. Check on how this placement plays out for you. Ask yourself, are you speaking your truth or just saying what is safe and accepted? The answer should help you recognize when fear is motivating you, with Moon in detriment. In Gate 23, Line 5, your communication may be shaped by the need for protection and acceptance rather than pure truth. Your challenge is to overcome fear-driven expression and own your insights with confidence, rather than over-adjusting them for survival or approval. The commentaries of Ra'uruhu are so relevant for both planetary placements of this line. I quote, "The Moon in detriment, motive-driven assimilation from an inferior position, i.e., for protection or nourishment. These are people that really trade off their knowing. This is the individual that will sell out their knowing because they recognize that the assimilation is so important. Remember that everybody is projecting onto the 23.5 that they know. Because of that, the outside also wants them to bring that knowing out, even if they can't explain themselves. The moment that they can't explain themselves, all that falls apart. So, here in the White Book, The Jupiter side is the gift of communicating individual insight to the collective. Here is the gift of reaching out to the collective through assimilation. On the other side, we have motive-driven assimilation for acceptance and protection from the collective. I will be nice to them. I'm not going to tell them what I know. I want them to like me. I don't want them to throw me out. A couple of years from now, maybe, when they really do accept me, I'll tell them what I know. This is what usually happens with the fifth line. And again, the nature of how somebody can express their individuality is almost exclusively conditioned by their culture, by their family environment when they were young, usually within the first 7 years. The impact of how you are conditioned by the outside world when you are an individual child has enormous impact for the rest of your life, whether or not you are going to have the courage to be able to express your I know, or whether you spend all of your time being concerned about being accepted by the society around you. The vast majority of individuality on this planet is more concerned about being accepted and not being rejected by the totality than they are about establishing their knowing in the world. As you can see from this projected pressure from the outside, the greatest pressure on the individual is to assimilate. Once you have established the value of your knowing, after that, you have to be like everybody else. Gate 23, line 6, fusion. The gradual attunement of diversity through synthesis. Gate 23 is the gate of assimilation, responsible for expressing individual knowing in a way that others can understand. Line 6, called fusion, represents the highest potential of this gate, bringing diverse ideas, perspectives, and truths together into a unified whole. Keynoting sounds like this. When I express my individual knowing and insights, I bring a diversity of idea, perspectives, and truths together into a unified whole, and this way, I make possible the attunement of diversity through synthesis. Out of the overview line and the keynoting sentence, we can remember some basic themes of this sixth line. 1. The ability to synthesize diversity. This line has the gift of seeing the bigger picture and integrating diverse perspectives into something meaningful. Unlike line 4, fragmentation, which struggles to unify ideas, line 6 SAS naturally brings things together into coherence. It doesn't force assimilation, but allows for gradual attunement, where differences merge organically. 2. Wisdom through experience. Line 6 has a deep, long-term perspective. It sees that true synthesis takes time. It understands that diversity is not something to be eliminated, but harmonized. This line has the ability to bring people, ideas, and systems into alignment without erasing their individuality. 3. The role of a guide or teacher. Because it naturally fuses different perspectives, this energy can act as a mentor, teacher, or guide for others. It doesn't impose truth, but creates space for understanding to unfold organically. People with this energy are often seen as wise because they integrate knowledge rather than taking rigid positions. This gate in this sixth line, as any other gate or line, has its lowest and highest expression, has its own gift and shadow, and a certain key for balancing energies. This line can bring you the gift of mastery of synthesis by bringing together diverse elements into a powerful and unified understanding, guiding others in the process. Patience and integration is a balanced expression of this line when you allow ideas to come together over time instead of forcing immediate solutions. For sure, there is the possibility of a certain pitfall when struggling to balance too many perspectives. This could lead to inaction or indecisiveness, resulting in confusion and overwhelming. To grasp the whole potential of this line, there are different ways to work with the energy and some useful tools, such as trust the process. True synthesis takes time. This is why forcing fusion too quickly can lead to instability. Use your wisdom to guide others. Your ability to integrate perspectives makes you a natural teacher or mentor. Honor diversity while seeking unity, The goal is not sameness, but harmonious coexistence. Gate 23.6 represents the highest expression of assimilation, transforming fragmentation into unity without erasing differences. From the words of Ra, I quote, "When you come to the sixth line, to the end of the process, you come to this place of transition. As we have seen already, it is rare for the sixth line to be actively involved in the process of the hexagram because it is so interested in what is going on in the whole circuit. When you are dealing with the circuitry of individuality, you are dealing with an enormously complex circuitry. The moment you are looking towards all of that circuitry, what you are really looking on towards is any knowing of value if it does not lead to mutation. This is the nature of the sixth line here. In order for knowing to lead to mutation, this is a process that comes out of bringing the diversity into synthesis as a fusion. This line is called fusion. It says, the gradual attunement of diversity through synthesis. The first thing to recognize is that these are individuals that will take the longest time to express their I know. Built into them is a genetic recognition that each knowing is a block that eventually builds a structure, and this is the channel of structuring in which the knowing is so clear that the mutation is then possible. Mars exalted, the exponential growth of energy and its power of assertion engendered by fusion. In the White Book, individual knowing which brings diversity through synthesis. What is obvious is that to bring diversity takes time, because people with this placement are not the kind of knowers that jump up to say, I know, I know. They really have that sense of knowing in them, but there is also this sense that the knowing is not complete. Ra said that knowing is about knowing who you are and why you are. That is the core of knowing. For the individual, that is the essence for them. That is a complex process because you have to live long enough to be able to get some kind of an impression of what it is to be in this world, in your own life. Mars represents assertion, raw energy, drive, and action. When exalted, it brings a powerful, confident force that drives expression and synthesis. Breaking down the themes of the sentences of Mars exalted, it's about exponential growth of energy. The sixth line doesn't just express knowledge, it builds upon it, expanding it into something even more powerful. Power of assertion. There is a boldness in expression here. This line doesn't just communicate insights, it asserts them with strength and conviction. Fusion and synthesis. Instead of separating ideas into fragmented parts, this line combines and integrates knowledge, creating something new and diverse from different perspectives. Bringing diversity through synthesis. The individual has a unique ability to take different viewpoints, ideas, and insights, and merge them into a unified understanding that leads to transformation. This person has the ability to see beyond the present moment, integrating knowledge in a way that leads to major shifts in understanding. It's about visionary thinking. The sixth line asserts its knowledge with conviction, making it more likely to be heard and respected. The mutation potential is high here. The way this person speaks doesn't just change minds, it changes systems and ways of thinking. People look to them as someone who synthesizes different ideas into something meaningful and useful for the collective. Remember to trust your ability to synthesize. Your strength is in seeing patterns and connections that others miss. Lean into this gift. Stay true to your vision. Others may struggle to understand your insights at first, but your role is to lead the way in transforming thinking. Jupiter in detriment. The principled but futile withdrawal from fusion that leads to atrophy. Individual knowing that holds on to diversity and loses its power and expression. Jupiter is the planet of expansion, wisdom, and contribution, but when in detriment, it loses its ability to grow and share its gifts. Instead of expanding, it contracts and withdraws from engagement. The sixth line individual believes in their insights, but may feel that others are not ready or receptive to them. Instead of asserting their knowing, they step back, refusing to engage, which, in the long run, can cause stagnation or irrelevance. It's about principled but futile withdrawal. Just like unused muscles weaken over time, knowledge and insights that are not shared or acted upon lose their power. The individual's wisdom remains locked inside them, preventing the intended impact. This person sees many perspectives and values diversity of thought, but instead of synthesizing these ideas into something meaningful for the collective, they cling to them separately, unable to bring them together into an impactful message. Losing power in expression. Since their knowledge is never fully translated into words that can influence others, their mutative potential fades away, and they may feel isolated, unheard, or frustrated. In real life, with this placement, the individual may feel that people aren't ready for their wisdom and withdraw from engagement, believing it's pointless to try. They hold back instead of sharing, and they may have valuable insights but struggle to express them in a way that can be received, leading them to keep their knowledge to themselves. Because they do not fully step into their role as a communicator, their insights never reach the people who need them. If they withdraw too much, they risk losing connection to the world around them, causing mental, emotional, or even creative stagnation. Keep in mind that even if people aren't fully ready for your ideas, look for ways to introduce them gradually rather than withdrawing completely. Don't just collect diverse perspectives, but instead work on bringing them together into something actionable. With Jupiter in detriment in Gate 23, Line 6, you have deep individual knowing, but may struggle to share it effectively. If you withdraw instead of engaging, your insights lose their power and remain unused. Your challenge is to find a way to communicate your wisdom, even in small steps, so that it doesn't fade away into isolation. I quote the words of Ra-Uru-Hu in relation to Jupiter in detriment in this line. I quote, "The principled but futile withdrawal from fusion that leads to atrophy." This is the sixth line saying, "I know a lot of things, but I don't know what I really need to know, and I have had enough. It is not possible. How can I find that knowing that will lead to mutation? I have been going through all of these knowings, and I don't know how all of that can fit together." Individual knowing that holds on to diversity and loses its power in expression. The sixth line can only express a knowing that is mutative. Otherwise, it is not really going to bother. Of course, as a child, it will go through the I know process, like all children that are individual in terms of the mental or throat process, but the reality is that as they mature in life, they are going to hold back more and more and more until they have that opportunity to see the synthetic knowing. If not, they'll wait. We have been looking at how 6 lines move to the next hexagram. We saw how the abstract shifts over to the logic and how the logic jumps back over to the abstract. And here, in this individual process, we have this remarkable movement. We have this movement that goes from the 23.6 to the 8.1. The 8.1 is the very next hexagram, and it is the mirror to the 23, because it is out of the 8 that its potential contribution can be made to society, not at a mental level, but in terms of identity and direction. End of quote. Now let's move on to a different perspective to see how the 23rd gate sustains or communicates the purpose of life through the crosses of incarnation that are established when the conscious sun is placed within the 23rd hexagram, right angle, cross of the explanation 2, consisting of following gates, 23, 43, 49, 4. Ever the outsider, they are constantly explaining themselves or their often unique concepts, principles, and insights in order to integrate them into another person's revolutionary or analytical process. You are here to vocalize individual expression. Because it is individual expression, it is new to the collective, and your audience may act as if what you are saying is strange or bizarre. You therefore have built-in energy to repeat what you have said or done over and over again. It is through this process of repetition that the rest of humanity, or at least friends and family, begin to become familiar with what you are expressing. An illustration of this energy is popular fads. Someone with individual energy does something new, wears a new type of shoe or sports a new hairdo. At first, society's reaction is, that's just weird. But after seeing it 5, 10, 20 times, other people start to do it and it catches on. You are here to introduce us to the new ideas. Juxtaposition cross of assimilation, consisting of following gates: 23, 43, 30, 29. An engaging person given the task of repeating an unfamiliar insight until it becomes familiar, or is assimilated by friends who have the grace to listen. You have the energy that pushes you to bring forward individual ideas to create change. Individual ideas can at first seem bizarre or foreign to others because they are new and different. The challenge of your cross is to bring these forward without scaring others off. You will do a dance of holding this expression in until you get to know people, and only then letting your true expression out. Expressing that inner you is your contribution. It is from these individual ideas that new things are born and can be accepted. Just remember, not all new ideas take flight. Some do, and others drop by the wayside. Left angle cross of dedication, consisting of following gates: 23, 43, 30, 29. Potentially great teachers dedicated to explaining the same things over and over, thus furthering education and change. Always interested in what comes next. There is a drive in your cross to provide the same explanation over and over again. This cross is a great basis for teaching. Through teaching, you can fulfill the burning desire to repeat the same thing over and over again, perhaps over time clarifying your message through its retelling. The dedication you have to explanation is the gift you bring to this lifetime. I hope this material is helpful and supporting for the development of your human design knowledge. Please share if you enjoyed listening, and subscribe if you want to be notified about any new posting of informative, learning materials regarding human design. Thank you.